Hello there! What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be bringing to you my top 3 Rebel commanders best to face off against a Superstar Destroyer. Now, this list is going to be largely my own bias, and I will try to explain as best I can why I chose the top 3, but I will also go over some of the other commanders and maybe why they didn't make the list or why they almost did. And so I'll be talking about all of them. This is largely going to be based on a lot of the new information that we got from the Superstar Destroyer video that FFG just did for their Twitch stream, as well as on YouTube Live. You can find that on FFG's official channels, as well as you can find my video recap of all that information. I'll put a link to that at the end of the video if you haven't already seen it. I also want to remind you guys, there is still time to enter and win a $25 Amazon gift card. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Let me know what you think of the Superstar Destroyer, if you think Rebels are going to stand a good chance against it, or if you think that the Superstar Destroyer is going to completely dominate the meta. All right, so with that being said, let me go ahead and dive into my list at number 3. So at number 3, to face off against the Superstar Destroyer, and again, this is just from the Rebel perspective. Of course, you can have Imperials go up against another Superstar Destroyer, but from a Rebel perspective, I'm bringing to us Admiral Rattus. Now, Rattus made number 3. He didn't go higher than this, although he could potentially be higher, but primarily because he's mostly going to be working better in a smaller game. In a 400-point game or less, he's going to work a lot better, but in a larger game, because they did just put out Sector Fleet, and sometimes you will be using some of the Superstar Destroyers in larger, like maybe a 1,200-point battle, the impact from Rattus is going to be felt a lot less. So that's why he's at 3 and not a little bit higher, but basically, we did kind of get some visualization on just how strong it is to get out of that front arc. These are things that maybe some of you are probably already obviously aware of, that the front arc is the most deadly for the Superstar Destroyer, and a big part of your strategy needs to probably be to get around that front arc to either the side or the auxiliary sides, and eventually to the rear. Well, Admiral Rattus can absolutely allow you to do that, and I think there's a lot to be said for that, especially by putting like a big ship like maybe an MC-75 off to the side, where it can now skirt the edges and go around that Superstar Destroyer. Additionally, that ship is going to be able to survive because the side arcs of the Superstar Destroyer aren't as deadly. They're still a threat, but they're not something that's going to risk one-shotting your larger ship. And also because of its tremendous size, a bigger ship like an MC-75, which is a ship that you definitely want to double arc, is going to be able to double arc. You're not even going to have gunnery teams on it. You're going to be a lot of times you're going to be able to have a double arc on that Superstar Destroyer. And so Admiral Rattus giving you the flexibility to really exploit the sides of that Superstar Destroyer makes him, I think, a fantastic candidate to do it. There's some risk involved in it, though, in that you don't want to lose maybe your point ship before he has a chance to drop. So you have to be very careful about when and where you do it. And I think there's definitely a learning curve that goes along with dropping a ship with Rattus. So take a lot of time, for you Rebel players out there that are going to face Superstar Destroyers, get a couple of practice games in and really learn and master when you want to drop with Rattus. I've seen people try to go too late when dropping him, and then they end up having no options left. It's also important to note that you can't overlap squadrons. So if a Superstar Destroyer does come in with a lot of TIE fighters, you'll want to probably drop it a little bit earlier, because those TIE fighters can fan out and stop, and really block your options on where you can drop something. So it's worth thinking about that as well. All right, next up, Admiral Akbar. Now, Akbar was one of the things that I really liked, because at one point we did see, we saw a Nebulon being able to take advantage of its side arcs on the Superstar Destroyer. I believe it was a double side arc shot, although it was hard to measure it because of the angle of where the camera was. But they definitely pointed out, just because of the tremendous length of this model, any ship coming at it from the side is going to pretty easily have a double side arc. And I think Akbar is going to really shine more so than ever before because of the size of the Superstar Destroyer. You're almost always going to be able to take advantage of that Akbar slash, or at least one Akbar side arc, but a lot more times you're going to be able to take advantage of both side arcs. And more, few people have ever really been able to pull off a whole lot of Akbar double side arc shenanigans against one ship. It's happened to me once ever in the entire time that I've been playing Star Wars Armada. Only one time, and that was with a Nebulon right up against the side of an Imperial Star Destroyer, and it was barely able to do it. But against a Super Star Destroyer, a lot of ships are going to be able to do that with a lot of ease because its profile is so very, very big. People are going to be able to double side arc against it like it's crazy. And you're going to be just adding so many dice. And, you really need a lot of dice. I think if you are able to come at a Super Star Destroyer from the sides, you're going to see that Akbar becomes more and more popular. He's going to surprise some people at first, but I think he's going to become a go-to commander. Additionally, not all Super Star Destroyer lists are going to be single ship lists. So again, with those ships those lists that have a Super Star Destroyer and a Gazanti, or a Super Star Destroyer and a Raider, and a Demolisher, you're definitely going to be able to get your double side arcs on those as well. So I think there's just so many opportunities here to get that double side arc with Akbar. I think he's going to rise to just astronomical levels of play. So Admiral Akbar, and probably will be my personal favorite. And the number one is going to be Commander Sato. Now, Sato's like a little bit of a mixed bag here. I think you're going to have to learn to play him slightly differently than maybe you did before, because the Super Star Destroyer can potentially really wreck squadrons. I think you're going to have to change the way you play a little bit. But basically, the whole concept here is Sato lets you attack potentially at long range, or any range really, and be able to roll black dice. And granted, you can make them of any color you want, but you want to make them black dice. And you can roll black dice at long range. Super Star Destroyer doesn't have any native evades, so it's not going to be able to really cancel those black dice. Granted, it can stop the crits because it's got 2 contains, but it's still damage. And this is a ship with so much hull, you just need to be getting consistent damage out there, and black dice are one of the best dice out there to get a lot of damage. They're the best dice for getting large amounts of damage against the ship. So right off the bat, Sato's benefit is huge. The Rebels have a lot of ships that can really take advantage of this. You can put a whole bunch of CR90s out there, and now they're all throwing 2 black dice. Maybe they concentrate fire, now 3 black dice from, 7 different ships that you can do with Sato, something like that. And again, he also scales really well when you go into higher gameplay point values. He's going to scale equally. Every ship you add is still going to be able to take advantage of his ability. So he's just a great, great commander for that. And I guess the same thing with Akbar to an extent also. But I think more so with Sato. The thing is, the risk with Sato is that if your squadrons get blown up. So I think one of the strategies I would probably employ with Sato is maybe I don't bring all of my ships. A lot of times people run A-Wings with Sato because they're cheap, they're fast, so you can keep them in safety and then move them all the way to engage, and they're effective even when they attack, because they do roll black die even though they don't all have bomber. The one does have bomber, but they don't have bomber. But even without bomber, a black die has a pretty good chance to cause damage. So A-Wings are just overall really a multi-purpose fighter in Armada. And so they work really well with Sato. And I wouldn't bring them all up to engage, because then an Imperial player just says, all right, well, anti-squadron, oh, you know what, all right, after 2 turns you lost all your squadrons. But I would probably bring 1 or 2 at a time, and maybe wait until, the SSD is gone, especially if you're going for a lot of small ships. Maybe you don't even bring it, maybe you do your first round of shooting without bringing any squadrons up, so you force the Super Star Destroyer to move up to your squadrons. Maybe you move them, at only, medium range, such that the Super Star Destroyer moves into range, and now all of your ships get to add those black dice. There's going to be some slight changes in the way that you play, because you don't want to have the Super Star Destroyer attacking your squadrons. If you go up against a Super Star Destroyer that doesn't have gunnery teams, well, then by all means you can put maybe 2 or 3 A-Wings in the front arc and tempt him. Say, okay, well, if you attack the squadrons, that means you're not attacking all the ships in your front arc. So, you'll definitely, give them a really difficult puzzle on which to choose. And it's good to kind of force your opponent to choose, because there's always, anytime you do that, there's a chance they're going to make the wrong choice. And so the more choices you give them, the more opportunities for them to make a mistake. And so Sato can really play a lot of tricks on your opponent this way. But the biggest value really is just the fact that you're getting black dice and they don't have evades. And so many ships, when you go up against them that do have evades, tend to do really well against Sato, because you're like, oh, I got that hit crit, and then they just cancel it, easy peasy. So again, that's why I think Sato will do really good against the Super Star Destroyer. So those are my top 3. you know, looking at all of the Rebel commanders, there's certain other ones, like I think General Kraken almost made this list because I think he's, you know, I would probably have given him fourth. I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've actually ever flown Kraken myself, although I've flown against him a couple of times. He's just somebody that doesn't, you know, usually fit my play style. But I could definitely see using him because against a Super Star Destroyer, you will have to go fast, and you will want to be swinging around that front arc. And you know, once you get out of that front arc, especially if you're running like maybe with TRC 90s, is basically one of the ways I would definitely want to run Kraken. With CR 90s, with maybe Turbo Laser Reroute Circuit, or what, you know, staying at long range and trying to take advantage of those red dice. They would definitely want to be obstructed at long range. If we can, and you can maneuver them as such to kind of keep them at long range and keep firing from a distance. The Super Star Destroyer is not going to have that many red dice to throw back on you once they're out of the front arc. And so if you're obstructing all of those attacks, I mean, that's going to really help your CR90s stay alive. So that would be cool. Granted, he doesn't really help you in dealing with other threats, like if there's a support force to go with the Super Star Destroyer, or if there's squadrons to go with the Super Star Destroyer. But he will help you avoid those really big hits. Dodonna, I don't see being that helpful in this case. I mean, he's always good, and the fact that he's 20 points means him good, but the fact that the SSD usually is going to be built specifically to deal, you know, to work against crits with like Damage Control Officer and things like that, makes me think Dodonna might not be that effective. Garm Bel Iblis, no, I don't think Garm goes up very much. Maydeen, I think stays about the same. Riken might have a little bit more of a use because one of the things we did get confirmed is like you can fly a little flotilla in front of a Super Star Destroyer, and that will stop it from moving, and it goes back just like anything else. And so maybe you fly a little ship in front of the Super Star Destroyer just to hold it still, so this way you have an easier time maneuvering around it. That might be a valid strategy. So Riken might see a little more play. Leia, I don't think is going to really see much play at all, or at least not an increase specifically against the Super Star Destroyer. Mon Mothma potentially could, but I think she's probably about the same as she normally was. The thing is, the ships that benefit from Mon Mothma the most are probably ships like the MC-30, and they want to be so close anyway that I don't think she's going to really offer them that much help against the SSD. Not that one specifically. So, the top three are still the top three. The fourth, I'd move up General Kraken in standings a little bit because I could see running a lot of CR90s. And that's just basically my opinion. And those are my top three, and then kind of a little breakdown on the rest. Hopefully we get some more commanders here pretty soon. I don't think we're getting any new Rebel commanders in our next campaign, but I don't know that we're not. They said we're getting upgrades, so that makes me think not commanders, but I can't wait to see more from that. And of course, as we get more information on that, I'll be covering it and I'll be bringing it to you, and hopefully we'll get a little more, spoilers, and hopefully maybe we'll get some closer out looks at the Super Star Destroyer again at Star Wars Celebration coming up next week. I will be there, so if you are going to be in Chicago, if you're going to Star Wars Celebration, stop by that Fantasy Flight booth, come over and say hi. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank all my patrons also for their continued support. You guys are amazing. If you're interested in joining the team, there's links you can click down below and join the Patreon. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.